is to read with understanding the meanings, is to think of that message Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending you. The Quran itself, He told us this. The Quran itself actually told us that it is one of the reasons Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed that book for, is to read with understanding the meanings, is to think of that message Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran itself, He told us this. The Quran itself actually told us that it is one of the reasons Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed that book for, is to read with understanding wisdom, the reason behind this. He said, for all people to think of these ayat, to reflect the meanings of these ayat, the ayat of the Quran, or the verses of the Quran. وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. So they might be reminded. And we're going to talk about what is the meaning of reminded when we apply the people for the Quran. It's also He was condemning those non-Muslims who are just attacking the Quran or staying away from the Quran without even giving a chance to themselves to think of this book. What is this book? So He said, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. He's condemning them. It's a kind of rebuking language to these people. He said, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Do they not reflect upon the book, reflect upon the Quran? وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Had it been from anyone else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this book, لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. They would have found lots of contradictions in this book if it was from anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He said another ayah, the same meaning, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Then they reflect upon the Quran, أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Or there are kind of locks upon the hearts. Look at the very figurative meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is implying this ayah. أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. He told us that those hearts, and we're going to talk about this, those hearts were not thinking of the meanings of the Quran. The hearts that are not given chances for themselves to look at the meanings of this book, there is a kind of lock upon their heart. This heart is not open. The meaning of this heart is not open for the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the openings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the futuhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance. That's why the Mashayikh and scholars told us that the people, upon listening or hearing the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the Quran, are of different kinds. All of us, all humanity, all people, when they are listening to the Quran, we are in different kinds of categories of people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in a very important ayah in the Quran, He is talking to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about how the unbelievers of Mecca, they were accusing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam of his honesty and of being a messenger from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He wanted to threaten the people of Mecca or the pagans or the unbelievers, He was telling them the stories of the previous nations before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So He was reminding them with this concept. He said, وَكَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا قَبْلَهُمْ مِنْ قَرْنٍ هُمْ أَشَدُّ مِنْهُمْ بَطْشًا. He started with these people saying how many generations we have destroyed before them, who were stronger than these people, than the people of the Mecca who were denying the prophecy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَلَقَّبُوا فِي الْبِلَادِ. So when the torment or the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to these people, they ran for refuge in the lands. Then He said, هَلْ مِنْ مَحِيصٍ. Could they find a way to survive? Could they find a way to be could they find a way to have that refuge from the torment and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is the punishment. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with these people. And then look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commented on this. He said, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرًا. Indeed in that example of destroying all these nations, a reminder. That reminder is for who? Look at what He said subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرًا لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ الْقَلْبِ. For the person, for whoever who has a heart. Look at the very beautiful meaning in the ayah. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرًا لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ الْقَلْبِ. For the person, for whoever who has a heart, أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. Or listens carefully, listens attentively. Or if you want to translate it literally, that's the person who casts his hearing. أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. While he is present, his heart is present. His heart is present when the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are recited to this person. That's why Imam al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said people, all people, out of three different kinds, or out of three different categories of people. A person whose heart is dead. He doesn't have that living heart. His heart is totally dead. Then he said, so this person actually, or technically, he doesn't have a heart even. Because his heart is dead, so he doesn't have a heart. And this person, the ayah, which we just mentioned, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرًا لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ, is not a reminder for this person. Why? Because he doesn't have a heart. This ayah is not a reminder for him. This is the first kind of people. And the second kind, he said a person who has a living heart, a living really heart, من له قلب حي مشتعل. His heart is ready for the blessings of the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this heart is ready to receive this ayat, to receive these blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he doesn't listen. He doesn't have the intention to listen. He doesn't have the ability to listen to all these recited ayat that are recited to him of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of different reasons. And that might happen. All these kinds, try to imagine yourself under one of these three categories. He said the ayat might not reach that person, so maybe he couldn't know anything about the Quran. He couldn't open the Quran, for example, in his life. He couldn't hear any ayat of the Quran because of whatever the reason is. Or the ayat reached him, but his heart is busy with something else. And that unfortunately happens to many of us. That we listen to the Quran, we hear the Quran in the Salah, we hear the Quran in whatever any of the recordings. And our heart is living heart, we have a heart. And our heart is somehow ready to receive these ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But our hearts are busy with lots of things. And the Quran is not the first priorities or our priorities. So he said, so this person, his heart is not present. He has a heart, his heart is not present. It's not present for the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This person also, this ayat of إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرًا لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ is not a reminder for him. Yet he has a heart, but the ayat is not a reminder for this person. Though he has a heart and his heart is living, but there's no reminder in the ayat. And then the third and the last category, this person who has a living heart, and he's ready to receive the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And once the ayat of Allah are recited to this person, he listens attentively. He listens carefully, as the ayat said. He tries to bring his heart to understand the meanings of the ayat. And he doesn't try to get busy with anything else except understanding the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says this part of the people, this kind of people, are the people who will benefit from the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the kind of people that the ayat will be a reminder for him. And then he describes these three kinds of categories of people. He told us again that there is a person whose heart is dead, totally dead. And there is a person who has a heart, but he is busy with lots of things in this life, so he is not actually paying a lot of attention to the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the third person was ready, has a living heart, and he's listening with the very deep meaning of listening, not just listening with his ears to the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first person was like the blind, the one who is blind, so he can't see anything. And the second person who has a heart but is not present with the Quran or the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said he's the seeing person, he can see, he has eyes, he can see, but he looks at the wrong direction. So he said actually, both of them, they can see. Whether the blind or the one who can see, but he looks at the wrong direction. So both of them are blind. One is blind naturally or physically, and one is blind technically. He has an eye, he has a heart, but he doesn't look at the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the third person is the basir, the one who can see, and the one who looks at the right direction. Not just this, he added a very nice comment. He looks at the right direction, and he keeps the right exact distance between him and the thing he's looking at. The one who قال الذي حدق إلى جهة المنظور أو قابله على توسط من البعد أو القرب. He looks at the right direction and he stands in the right place to look at that direction. So this person is the one who has the القلب الحي, is the one who can see the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. So he said that first person who has that very righteous heart and he's listened to the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when your heart is ready, and your heart is willing and eager to listen to the ayat and the meanings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the ayat come to that heart, it becomes light upon light, nurun ala nur. Because your heart has some kind of light. When the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the pure light ever, when it comes to your heart, which is ready, it becomes light upon light. And he said, وَهَؤُلَاءِ أَكْمَلُ خَلْقِ اللَّهِ. These are the most perfect people of all humanity, of all the people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. And these are the good and the best in terms of faith, and the best in terms of the insight and the wisdom. And those people are this very deep comment. And those people, they are like looking at the things that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed that man to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet was just delivering his message to us. Because if you live in your heart, you think that you can't see the meanings of the ayat. You can't see the scenes. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is described and explained in the ayat. Juz Amma, which we are going to explain, is full of the scenes of the Day of Judgment. So the one who has that kind of heart we are talking about is that kind of person, he can't imagine the scene, he can't see it. You can't see the sirat, the bridge that will be upon the fire. You can't see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold people accountable for everything they did. You can't see what everything the Quran is telling him. Or if the Quran is telling a story that happened with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he can't see it. Why? His heart is ready. His heart is willing. This is the meaning of how your heart is willing to listen to the ayah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think that's why the scholars told us a very nice example. They said let's look at the example of the best companion ever of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first and the best companion is Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. This is the best companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it was really important to look at the examples of those guys. Because these guys who understood the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to talk about in detail about how we can explain the Quran through the sayings of the Sahaba. And yes, we are saying that we will, it's kind of impossible to reach the level of understanding the Quran as the Sahaba did, because they had that very high level of Arabic language. And not just this, they were with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The source is within them. So you can ask him simply for anything they couldn't understand, and that's exactly what they did. So it's very hard to reach to that level of understanding the Quran. But at least you have to know how you were living with the Quran, how you were receiving that message from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they said the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu is like the example of two persons. They entered the house. Two persons entered the house. One of them saw every single detail of the house. He saw every item, everything, every wall, every chair, everything in that house. And the second person, he didn't see all of that, but he just touched some parts of that house, touched some chairs, some walls, something with his hands. So he didn't see the details, but he could figure out that this house is full of something very precious, something very amazing. Yet he didn't see everything. And then both of them, they left the house. And the one who just touched some items of this house, he started asking the first one who saw everything to describe him what he saw in the house. And then he said, whatever the first person is telling the second one, he believes in it without having any kind of doubt. He says, for example, I saw that in the house. He believes in that. He doesn't have even that period of time to think of his saying to be right or wrong, or to be false or not. Everything he kept telling him, he said yes. He agrees with everything this person said. So this is the example of what happened between Sayyidina Abu Bakr and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he's telling Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Abu Bakr is just an example of the Sahaba. He's telling him that Allah is saying that. Allah is saying you will be dealt in that situation on the Day of Judgment. Allah said this thing is going to happen. Allah said that. So he doesn't have that period of time of thinking. He doesn't have that process of authenticity of what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is telling him. That's why they said وَهَذِهِ أَعْلَى دَرَجَاتِ الصِّدِّيقِيِّ. This is the highest level of being a truthful person. This is how Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq got that high level of iman and high level of being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the scholars, to open the way for us, to open the chance for us, they said وَلَا تَسْتَبْعِدْ أَنْ يَمُنَّ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى عَلَى عَبْدِ بِمِثْلِ هَذَا الْإِيمَانِ. Don't think it is impossible to reach to that level of believing in what the Quran told you. فَإِنَّ فَضْلَ اللَّهِ لَا يَدْخُلُ تَحْتَ حَصْرٍ وَلَا حُسْبَةٍ. The fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the karam, and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have no limit. And that's why Sayyidina Abu Bakr was believing the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in everything he told him. And now when you understood this example I just gave, you will understand the story that happened after the journey of Al-Isra wal Mi'raj of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What happened? In short, the people of Mecca, they went to Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and they were trying to tell him, do you believe in what your friend said? Your friend said that he went to Al-Aqsa, he went to the Masjid Al-Aqsa and he came back in the same night. Do you believe in this? Do you feel that it's a crazy thing to believe? It's insane to believe some person did that in one night and he came back. So what was the answer of Sayyidina Abu Bakr? Very deep answer. He went too far. He didn't even answer directly. The answer looks like he's telling them, guys, are you kidding? I'm believing in him in way more far than this. I'm believing that the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming to him from the sky between the day and night. There is a khabar, there is the news of revelation. إِنْ يُصَدِّقُهُ فِي خَبَرِ الْوَحْيِ يَأْتِيهِ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ بَيْنَ عَشِيَّةٍ وَضُحَاهٍ. The news of the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming to him during the day and night. And I believe in this. So when he's coming to tell me that he went to Jerusalem and he came back in the same night, it would be hard for me to believe in this. This is unbelievable. This is the insanity you're talking about. So look at how was his answer. not any person can come to that conclusion. Not any person can think of the Quran and think of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that way Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq dealt with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's why he was as-Siddiq. And they said this story was the reason behind him was given that name of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the truthful person. And that was one of the reasons he was the best companion ever of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the one who has the heart is the one whose heart is full of insight, is full of wisdom. And the ayat, as we said, become light upon light. The light of his heart has already, and the light of the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what if a person doesn't have that light? What if a person doesn't have that much of faith in the Quran and the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Maybe many of us are in that situation. We are poor, we are masakeen. We're not in that level of Sayyidina Abu Bakr and of those Sahaba. But we think and we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be among those people that who have a kind of heart that is willing to listen and to understand the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we are doing our best to come to know that these ayat will be a reminder for us. We're gonna be reminded when we are reciting and reading this ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِن لَمْ يُصِبْهَا وَابِلٌ فَطَلٌ. This is always the example we're given. The example of this ayah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the example of those people who are spending the charity for His sake subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He said if this garden, He made a figurative meaning of a garden, if it is not hit by the downpour, meaning the downpour of the rain, so just sum the results. فَإِن لَمْ يُصِبْهَا وَابِلٌ فَطَلٌ. Did you get the example? This ayah is talking about the people who are spending the charity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. The example of these people who are spending their money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the charitable aspects. ابتغاء مرضات الله, for the sake of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ, and to reassure their hearts of the reward, and they are certain with the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ. It is like the garden in a very high ground. أَصَابَهَا وَابِلٌ. This is the example. This ground, which is the example, it was hit by a downpouring of rain. أَصَابَهَا وَابِلٌ. It's the very much of rain. فَآتَتْ أُكُلَهَا ضِعْفَيْنِ. So this garden, because of that much of rain, it yields double of the fruits. فَإِن لَمْ يُصِبْهَا وَابِلٌ. So if it wasn't hit by that downpour, فَطَلْ. Some drizzles, some drops of water. And this is a very nice figure of meanings. The scholars of Tazkiyah, they were telling us. They said that الوابل والطل في جميع الأعمال وآثارها وموجباتها. In everything you are doing in your life, it could be a downpour and it could be some drizzles and drops. This in everything. So this is the example we're trying to give. That if you're not of that level of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, of the downpour raining of the wisdom and of understanding the Quran, so just aim to come to some drops and some the results of the wisdom and of the light of the Quran. And that's why even the people of the Jannah are of different levels. Ashabul Yameen, As-Sabiqun, Wal-Muqarrabun. The Quran told us different levels of the Jannah. Not all of the people of the Jannah will be in the same level or in the same rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our hearts with the Quran. And a quick look at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, or his life, how he was dealing with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, may Allah be pleased with him. He said one night, I went to the Prophet ﷺ in the masjid, and I found him praying. So I stood behind him to pray with the Prophet ﷺ. It was a Qiyamul Layl. So he started with Surah Al-Baqarah. Started reciting Surah Al-Baqarah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Sayyidina Hudayfa said, I said to myself that he's gonna make it to the ayah number 100, and then he will make ruku. That was beyond his imagination of making a rak'ah very long. Then he said, but when he came to the 100, he passed it. He said, okay, you gotta finish the surah. And he's saying it like something very, very easy. He's gonna finish Surah Al-Baqarah, the longest surah in the Quran, and then he's gonna make ruku. And once he came to the surah, the end of the Surah Al-Baqarah, he started Surah An-Nisa. And by the way, the narration in Sahih Muslim became Al-Baqarah, then An-Nisa. Though the order of the Mus'haf is Al-Baqarah, and then Al-Imran, and then An-Nisa. But the hadith came in this way. That's why the fuqaha, scholars understood from this hadith that it's okay to change the order of the surah in the salah. You can pray with a surah, and then you go to another surah which is not in the same sequence of the order of the Mus'haf, and then you come back, it's okay. This is what we call the tankis. And this is okay because of this is one of the adillah for this. So he said he started with Surah An-Nisa, and then he recited the whole surah. Surah An-Nisa is too long. And then he recited Surah Al-Imran. He came back in terms of the order of the Mus'haf to Surah Al-Imran. And then he made the ruku'. So he recited three surah, one of the longest surah in the Quran. But this is not the point. The point how he described the way the Prophet ﷺ was reciting. He said, يَقْرَأُ مُتَرَسِّلًا. He was reciting the Quran slowly, was reciting the Quran quietly. إذا مر بآية فيها تسبيح سبح. When he passes by an ayah that has a kind of tasbih, glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he stops and he started saying subhanallah. وإذا مر بسؤال سأل. If he passes by an ayah that has a kind of su'al, su'al means here the dua. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something, he stops and he makes dua. وإذا مر بتعوذ تعوذ. When he passes by an ayah that has a kind of asking or seeking the refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against the hellfire of the punishment, he stops and he says أعوذ بالله. And he started asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant him to be saved from the punishment of the hellfire. And one day he said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went to Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, and he was one of the reciters of the Quran. And he asked him to recite the Quran to him. He's the Prophet, he's the one who brought the Quran to us. But he told him that I want to listen to the Quran. He himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Sayyidina Abdullah started reciting Surah An-Nisa until he reached the ayah in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. This ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How will it be when we bring from every nation a witness, and then we bring you, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, against these people as a witness? So he stopped sallallahu alaihi wasallam and started crying. فَبَكَى رَسُولُ اللَّهِ sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do you expect that when he cried, he wasn't reflecting the meanings? He was just listening, as we most of the time are listening to the Quran, where he was really listening attentively to this Sahabi is reciting to him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even, and we explained that before, I believe in one night during last Ramadan, but just very quick reminders. And Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, at the end of the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, used to come to him, وَكَانَ, as the hadith described literally, كَانَ يُدَارِسُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. The main idea of this, what Sayyidina Jibreel did with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a little bit before his death, is that they wanted to make sure that the Quran in this order, this ayat in this order, they were trying to revise everything he revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the hadith didn't come with the word, they were reciting the Quran with each other. Literally, they were studying the Quran. كَانَ يُدَارِسُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. Not just they are reciting, not just they are repeating the words of the Quran, they were studying. Meaning they are reciting, they are reflecting the meanings, they are thinking of the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that was every night of Shahr Ramadan. And the meaning of mudarasa, of that studying, for sure is not just for the words of the Quran, for the words and for the ahkam, and for everything that could come under this meaning of mudarasa to the Quran. However, the mudarasa, the studying or the recitation of the Quran of the Prophet ﷺ is not like ours, for sure. We need lots of time. We need lots of tools to understand these meanings of the Quran. But it comes, the scholar said, this meaning of mudarasa comes under the ayah which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told his prophet that in one ayah, he said, to move your tongue with this Quran, to hasten with its recitation, or with its revelation. Where's the story of this ayah? Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, he told us that the Prophet ﷺ used to suffer a great deal with the revelation of the Quran. كان يعالج من التنزيل شدة. Used to have that very big time with the revelation of the Quran. And he used to move his lips and his tongues too much. Every single minute, Sayyidina Jibreel is revealing the Quran to him. Why he was doing that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What do you expect? Sayyidina Jibreel is giving him the Quran, is revealing to him what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to him. And he's moving his tongues, trying to repeat the words and the ayat after Sayyidina Jibreel. Why? To memorize. He was afraid of forgetting anything. He's Ameen sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's the truthful sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he's responsible for this revelation for all humanity. So he wanted to make sure that every single letter in its place in the Mus'haf. So he was moving his lips. It was a big time, as Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas said. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to reassure his heart, wanted to tell him, don't worry. لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به. To move your tongue with the revelation of that book, to hasten with that revelation. Why? إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا جَمْعَهُ وَقُرْآنًا. It's a promise from Allah. Indeed upon us is its a collection and it's the Quran. The Quran, one of the meanings of the word Quran is the recitation, is the qira'ah. Is one of the meanings of the word Quran is al-qira'ah. Upon us is the job of the collection of the Quran and of the recitation of the Quran. So فَإِذَا قَرَأْنَا, once we recite it to you, meaning Sayyidina Jibreel is reciting it to you, فَاتَّبِعْ قُرْآنًا, just to follow his recitation. And after that situation, he stopped doing that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was just listening to Sayyidina Jibreel when he was giving him the Quran. And they said, because of that promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after he was done, he was repeating exactly what Sayyidina Jibreel told him. Why? Because that was the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep and to save that Mus'haf. That's why he told us, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. We have sent down that dhikr, that reminder. It's one of the names of the Quran. And we are the keepers of that book. We are the keepers of that reminder. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He promised us to do this. And He never granted that promise to any other divine book He gave to any prophet. Many of the books of the prophets were changed by the people or by the people of that religion, except the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised for this book specifically to save and to keep it till the day of judgment. وَلَا تَعْجَلْ بِالْقُرْآنِ, another ayah told him, وَلَا تَعْجَلْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يُقْضَى إِلَيْكَ وَحْيٌ. Do not hasten with the revelation of that book before its revelation is completed to you. وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. He concluded the ayah with seeking the increase of knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the way how the Prophet ﷺ was studying and reciting the Quran with Sayyidina Jibreel every night in Ramadan. Until the last Ramadan he witnessed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Sayyidina Jibreel was doing that twice every night. So he could figure out that there was a sign behind this, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He knew that this is my last Ramadan, this is my last year. And that actually what happened, that was the last Ramadan with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he told that to his daughter, Sayyidah Fatima. He told that Jibreel is doing that with me, وَلَا أَظُنُّ إِلَّا أَجَلِي قَدْ اقْتَرَبَ. And I think that this is my last Ramadan and my last few days in my life. That's why anytime we mention the Quran, we have to mention the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His name and his position sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is connected inherently with the Quran. And in many nusus, ayat, and in many ahadith, he was described to be a kind of Quran sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sayyidah Aisha, the best word she chose to describe his morals and his behaviors, she said, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. His character was a Quran. That was the best word to describe the characters of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا في سورة الإسراء وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا مُبَشِّرًا وَنَذِيرًا. Before this ayah said, وَبِالْحَقِّ أَنزَلْنَاهُ وَبِالْحَقِّ نَزَلَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the Quran. He said, with the truth we have sent down that book. وَبِالْحَقِّ نَزَلَ. And with the truth it has descended. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا مُبَشِّرًا وَنَذِيرًا. And we haven't sent you except as a bringer of the glad tidings and as a warner. And then in the second ayah, or the next ayah, he said, وَقُرْآنًا. It is atf in the Arabic language. So we sent you as a bringer of glad tidings, as a warner, and as a Quran. So they said the Quran is a atf after the previous two words. So this one of the descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ, that is a Quran. وَقُرْآنًا فَرَقْنَاهُ لِتَقْرَأَهُ عَلَى النَّاسِ عَلَى مُكْثٍ. We gave to you to give it to people or to deliver it to people over a prolonged period. And in Surah Al-Talaq also, he said a meaning close to this. And Surah Al-Talaq, by the way, one of the names of Surah Al-Talaq is Surah Al-Nisa al-Qusra. We have in the Quran Surah Al-Nisa, the long Surah of women, Surah Al-Nisa, the fourth Surah of the Mus'haf. And we have at the end of the Mus'haf, 27 part, we have Surah Al-Talaq. Just 2 pages, more than 2 pages, a little bit. So they call the scholars Surah Al-Nisa al-Qusra, the short Surah of the women. So we have the long Surah for the women and the short Surah of the women, because most of its rulings are about the ahkam or the rulings of the women. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in this ayah, قَدْ أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكُمْ ذِكْرًا. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He revealed to you or sent down to you a dhikr, a reminder. And then in the next ayah he said, رَسُولًا. The guys who are attending the Nahw course, we explain something called al-badal. قَدْ أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكُمْ ذِكْرًا. This is the last word in the ayah. And then in the very beginning of the second ayah, the next ayah he said, رَسُولًا. So Rasul is a badal. He's still talking about the same meaning. Al-dhikr, this reminder, is the Prophet. رَسُولًا يَتْلُو عَلَيْكُمْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ وَبَيِّنَاتٍ. This reminder we gave to you, we sent down to you. What is that reminder? He explained it in the next ayah. He is the messenger. So this dhikr is one of the descriptions, if not the names of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because his beliefs, his character, his characteristics, his morals, his behaviors, all of these things are Quran. All of the life, all the aspects of his life are the manifestations of the Quran. This is what we want to get out of this course with. To have the Quran in our life. To live the Quran. To have everything you are doing in this life with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To pass that level of just reciting the Quran, which is something very important, but to live with that meanings. To that manifestations of these ayat we are just repeating to appear in our characters, to appear in our beliefs and i'tiqadat, to appear in our actions and every single aspect of our life. And he himself, sallallahu he encouraged his companions in many of the hadith about reflection and about understanding the meanings of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of Surah Al-Imran, he said, إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. In the creation of the heavens and the earth and the alternation of the night and day are signs for those people of understanding. لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. And he praised them with this description, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And who are those people who have that understanding or the deep understanding? He said, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهِ, those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا, while standing and while sitting, وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ, and even while lying down, وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, and they are reflecting upon the creatures of the heavens and the earth. And then upon that, they glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They made that statement of dua, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. They said, our Lord, you didn't create all of that aimlessly. سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Exalted are you, so save us from the punishment of the hellfire. Once this ayah was revealed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ said a very dangerous word to his companions. He said, وَيْلٌ لِمَنْ قَرَأَهَا وَلَمْ يَتَدَبَّرْهَا. It's why to that person who recites this ayat and doesn't reflect the meanings of this ayat, doesn't think and ruminate the meanings of this ayat. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you that He's giving you all of these things He granted you of the creatures and of the Quran or whatever, anything He granted you, to think of it and to reflect upon it. And even the Sahaba, for sure, we have lots of stories. We've just given very quick examples. The Sahaba and the Salaf, after the generation of the Sahaba, this is the way they were dealing with the Quran. And those are the big generations we have to act upon their example. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, the interpreter of the Quran, Turjuman al-Quran, one of the biggest explanators of the Mus'haf, or the Quran. He said to do just 2 raka'at of qiyam in the depth of night with reflection, with tadabbur, it is better than standing the whole night praying without a heart. This is the word he said. ركعتان في تفكر خير من قيام ليلة بلا قلب. To stand the whole night making salah, but my heart is not there, my heart is not present, is nothing. Better than this, to pray just 2 rak'at, even very short rak'at, with tadabbur, with reflection of the meanings of the Quran. Imam al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, one of the Salaf, he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent down that book, the Quran, for us to act upon the teachings and the rulings of the Quran. لِيَعْمَلَ النَّاسُ بِهِ. But actually, he said, unfortunately, people try just to recite the words, just to be the main job of the Quran, to recite it. He said, فَاتَّخَذُوا قِرَاءَتَهُ عَمَلًا. Their job becomes, or reading or reciting the Quran becomes just a job. And the meanings and the actions, or acting upon the meanings, is not something very important. So the people asked him, the students of that Imam, they told him, so كيف العمل به? What do you mean with acting upon the Quran? He said, لِيُحِلُّ حَلَالًا. To believe in what the Quran describes to be lawful or to be halal, to believe in this. And to believe in what He imposed to be haram, that it is haram. And to act upon any order or command in the Quran. And to stop and to avoid any prohibition the Quran stated. وَيَقِفُ عِنْدَ عَجَائِبِهِ. And to stop a little bit with the wonders of that book, with the very deep meanings of that book. And Imam, one of the Salaf called Muhammad ibn Ka'ab al-Qurdi, he said, if in one night, a whole night making qiyam, or worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with 2 very short surahs, and think of this very important meaning, because this is one of the surah we're going to explain in Juz' Am. He said, I can spend my whole night just reciting 2 surah. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا وَالْقَارِعَةُ وَالْقَارِعَةُ. Very short surahs, half a page. I can spend the whole night just reciting these 2 surahs, and I don't increase anything else. And this is more beloved to me than just repeating some words. It's just moving my lips and my tongues, repeating some words from the Quran or from the Mus'haf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why, in conclusion to all of this, the scholars told us that meaning of tadabbur, or that meaning of reflection of the Quran, is of 2 main different kinds of categories. We have the reflection of the meanings, which is the main one, to reflect on the meanings of the Quran. And basically it is for the people who can understand the language of the Quran. This is basically for this. And we have the second type of the tadabbur, or the reflection. This is the reflection of love. You reflect upon the Quran because you love it. This is enough reason to reflect upon the Quran. Sayyidina Ikrimah, upon his death, one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, upon his death, he brought the Mus'haf. And he started putting it on his eyes and on his face. And he started crying too much and saying, Kalamu Rabbi, Kalamu Rabbi. This is the speech of my Lord. This is the word of my Lord. He's expressing his love. And why he had that love for the Quran? Because it is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you love someone and he sent you a message, so you love that message, you are very eager to open that message and read it. They said there is the reflection of ma'ani, reflection, tadabbur al-ma'ani, of the meanings of the Quran. There's another kind which is called the reflection of love. You just had that mutual love with the Quran, with the book, with the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to you. The first one is the main one, and this is actually what we want to approach in this course. That we want to understand the meanings, we want to reflect the ma'ani, the meanings of the Quran. And they said for that, to understand the language of the Quran, whether in its source language, which is the Arabic language, or to talk about it in different language, like English, for example. He said the Quran is different kinds in this perspective of understanding the meanings of the Quran. There is a part which is easy, which is very easy in the Mus'haf to understand. Something most of us, when he reads, even you can read a translation, you will get the meaning in general. Very clear ayat, very pure meanings. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. It refers to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is one. This is enough to understand from this ayat. Any person most likely can understand this ayat. This part of the Mus'haf will be for tadabbur al-ma'ani. And there is a part that is related to gharib al-lugha. These words that are somehow strange in the Arabic language. That even the Arab, some of them, they couldn't understand it. And that happened even with the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. Some of them, when they were listening to some of the ayat, even Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, they listened to an ayah, وَفَاكِهَةً وَأَبًّا. Allah Ta'ala is describing some things in the gardens and in the heavens. He said there is a fruit and there is abba. And then Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, what is abba? What is that word? He said, Wallahi, I don't know. He just stopped. The word triggered his mind. He said, what is the meaning of abba? And I started asking people, what is the meaning of this word? It's too strange, it's too weird for me. So they told him it is the grass that the animals are eating from. So he couldn't know this ayah. And that happened in more than one situation in these words which are not very easy to understand or to know the meanings. Now, what can we do to understand these words? We have to go to the dictionaries. We have to go to these lexical books that are talking about the origins of the words and the morphology and these branches of knowledge. So this is the second part. Part is very clear. Part is very unclear because the words are very strange. And there's the third part which is related to the ahkam. Actually, related to the fiqh. Al-ahkam al-mustanbata. Related to the ahkam that you can, it's the job of the scholars to deduce the rulings from this ayat. Any ayat that's talking about any hukm in the fiqh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, for example, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. This is the example we always give. When you want to establish the prayer, so you wash your faces, you wash your hands till the elbows, and you wipe over your head, and you wash your feet. So this ayah is talking about to make the wudu, how to make the ablution of the wudu. So this ayah is for specific people to understand and to explain. Why? Because there are lots of meanings behind these words. When you try to think of this ayah, what is the meaning of the face? اغسلوا وجوهكم. Wash your faces. What is the meaning of the face? What is the definition of face? To can understand what is basically and what is essentially in the wudu to do, and what is you can do and you can't do. So what is the limits of the face I have to wash? وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. What does that mean? وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. And wipe over your head. And then you stop and think. And we gave that example before. To wipe over your head or to wipe over your hair. Do you remember the example? Does it make difference? Or we can't consider it to wipe over your head or to wipe over your hair? What's the difference? Try to think of it. If you got the point, you will understand what I want to say with this. What I want to say with this part of the Mus'haf. Anyone wants to share an idea? So it doesn't make difference if you believe that there's no difference. So wiping over the head is wiping over the hair, right? No?
There's a difference.
What is the difference?
Someone could be bald, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Like myself in 2 years, inshallah. So in 2 years, I wouldn't have the hair to wipe over. So it is not wiping over the hair. Or there's a more clear example. A woman or a sister, they have long hair. So can a sister wipe over her shoulder, the hair that comes over her shoulder? Will be a valid wudu? Why? So it is the head, it's a ras. امسحوا برؤوسكم, and wipe over your heads. So the head has a limit, has a specific place you have to wipe over. The hair, if you have hair, the hair you are going to wipe, it has to be in the place of the head, within the limits of the head to wipe over. Otherwise, it is not masah. It's not the masah, it's not wiping that is meant in the wudu. How could we understand this? It needs a specific job to do this. It needs some tools to understand what is the meaning of masah. And how can we elaborate these meanings through other texts of the Prophet ﷺ, through other tools of the Arabic language, through other tools of the principles of fiqh. It's much work you have to do. So this part is not the job of any person. It's a job for a specific scholars to understand the meanings of the part that is related to the fiqh. And then the fourth and the last part of the Mus'haf, now we're trying to make the Mus'haf as 4 main categories of parts. Is that the ayat that are not clear too much. Ayat that might refer to more than one meaning. There are more than one possible meaning behind the ayat. Al-ayat al-muhkam wal-mutashabih. Ayat is clear in the meanings, but there are other ayat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that minhu ayatun muhkamatun hunna ummul kitab wa ukhra mutashabihat. Some of its ayat are clear to understand. But he said that some of its ayat are not clear to understand. And this is also of what the scholars did is from the khafiyyu dilala. Its implication or the meaning or the theory of this ayah is unclear. Not any person can get. You have to refer back to the sayings of if we have a saying from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or to refer back to a saying from the Sahaba, or a saying from the Tabi'een, these first generations. And sometimes it might come to your head, to your mind, that there's a kind of contradiction between two ayat. How does this ayah tell me that meaning, and there's another ayah that says a meaning apparently to me is two different contradicted meanings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, for example, فَإِذَا نُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ, when on that day, on the day of judgment, when the trumpet is blown at the day, فَلَا أَنْسَابَ بَيْنَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَلَا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. At that day, there will be no ties between those people, and they won't ask about each other. فَلَا أَنْسَابَ بَيْنَهُمْ وَلَا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَلَا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. There is no this concept of ties between people. There's no that concept there. Every person just try to survive by himself, and nobody will ask about the other one. But in another ayah, he said subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. They will turn on one another to ask about each other. So when you look at these two different ayahs, so one ayah is telling me a kind of contradicting meaning to the first ayah. This ayah of the unclear ayat. You have to refer back to one of the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who they were trying to explain. And even in the dictionaries, you can't find the meaning of this ayat. You have to refer to that. They will tell you that it is a kind of stages, it's a kind of levels. First, after the grave, there's the hisab, and there's the al-ard, and it's different levels of the day judgment. We gotta explain that in detail. So this ayah is talking about a specific time at that day, and the second one is talking about a different one. So this also one of the parts of the Mus'haf. That's why he told us subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge, ask the people of the message if you don't know. And this ayah is too general. Doesn't just refer to the Quran, doesn't just refer to the meanings of the Quran, anything. When you don't know anything, when you have a problem with something, with your health for example, you have to ask the people of dhikr, who are the doctors. When you want to consult an engineer, you have to ask him, because he's the people of the dhikr in this field of knowledge, or in this area of knowledge. When you want to get a fatwa, you have to ask a scholar, because this is his area of knowledge. This is the meaning of فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Very simple order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. And then the second one, which we said, is the reflection of the mahabba or tadabbur al-mahabba. That might be easy for every person. He is young or old, any person. He knows Arabic, he doesn't know Arabic. Just to have that feeling of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and loving His message, you love the Quran. And we see that with many of our brothers who don't have that much of knowledge about Arabic language, but they have this mutual love with the Quran. Though they might not understand lots of its meanings, but they still love it. They still love that book. They still get influenced with just the recitation of the Quran. When he listens to an imam who's reciting the Quran, he says, Allah, subhanallah. Maybe he doesn't understand the meaning. And if you know Arabic language, this is a ni'mah itself. You have to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. Because your brother, who is not having that much of knowledge about the Arabic language, he doesn't understand the exact meaning of the ayah, but he feels something different. And according to the levels of the hearts which we introduced our talk with, you will feel that connection with the Quran, even if you don't understand the meaning. And even if you're good in Arabic language, but not every person knows Arabic language, he's good to understand the meanings of the Quran. Now our Arabic language is way different from the Arabic language. So even if you don't understand the meaning, whether you're an Arab or not, you still have that connection, you still have that love with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why the people of Mecca, the unbelievers, and this the early point of history with the Quran, we have to look at all the time to see how people received that message. Whether the unbelievers who were in a kind of enmity with the Prophet ﷺ, or the people who just right away believed in him ﷺ, as the example of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. But the other people of the unbelievers, every time they listen to the Quran, they feel something different. And they admitted that in many situations. Jubayr ibn Adi ibn Mut'im, he was one of the biggest enemies of the Prophet ﷺ. And he was planning to kill the Prophet ﷺ. But when he went to him, he listened to him reading surah, reciting Surah Al-Tur, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and was talking about before as a kind of conversation with the unbelievers. أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Have they created from nothing, or did they create themselves? أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? It's a logical conversation with those people. So the more he's listened to this ayat, he stopped. He couldn't. The Prophet didn't know that he's around. He went to kill him. Then he stopped. He couldn't stand. He said, what is that? And then he embraced Islam way after this situation. But he said a very nice commented this. He said, حتى كاد قلبي يطير. He was an unbeliever. He was not just an unbeliever. He was an enemy. But he said, my heart was about to fly upon listening to these words, upon listening to these ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he said, Ya ayyuha nas, when he wanted to talk about the Quran, Ya ayyuha nas, قد جاءتكم موعظة من ربكم. O you mankind, it has come to you kind of موعظة, kind of instructions from your Lord. وشفاء لما في الصدور. And a healing for what is in the hearts. وهدى ورحمة للمؤمنين. And a guidance and mercy for all the believers. That's why when you just even recite the Quran, or trying to reflect the meanings of the Quran, the rahmat, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will descend upon you. The futuhat, the openings in the meanings and understanding the meanings will come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to you when you are listening or reciting the Quran or thinking or reflecting the meanings of the Quran. And this is what we want to do in this halaqah. So after this introduction about our relationship with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we usually, the main title of these kind of courses is that tafsir. We always hear the word of tafsir. And I think all of us know this word, even our brothers who don't know Arabic. So what does this word mean? What is the meaning of tafsir when we say this word? Lexically in the Arabic language, or when you want to go deep with the derivations of this word in the morphology, you'll find lots of meanings, but we will just take one example. He said it means al-bayan wal-kashf. It is مأخوذ من الفسر. And it means al-bayan wal-kashf. It means something you elaborate, something you uncover, something you explain. This is one of the meanings of at-tafsir. And that's why when you uncover something, and this meaning is in the Quran. When you say, for example, أسفر الصبح. Allah said, وَالصُّبْحِ إِذَا أَسْفَرَ. So it becomes clear. The morning it becomes clear. You can see it now. So when you uncover something, it becomes clear to you to understand. This is one of the literal. We talk about the literal meaning of the word tafsir. And there's another word, which is at-ta'wil. We are using this word to talk about the Quran. So you have at-tafsir. In English, you can say explanation, for example. You can say exegesis, for example. And we have at-ta'wil, which you can say literally in English, the interpretation. So we have at-tafsir, exegesis, and interpretation. Let's adhere to these words for now. And at-ta'wil, they said it comes from the word awl, meaning the origin of something, the very first origin of something. So you go back to the original meaning of the word you're talking about. The two different meanings of at-tafsir and ta'wil. Some scholars said both are the same meaning. So at-tafsir equals to at-ta'wil. Interpretation, exegesis, explanation, all of them are the same meaning. Some scholars said that. Others said no. At-ta'wil, the interpretation, is specific for the divine books, for al-kutub al-ilahiyya, for any book Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. But at-tafsir, the explanation, you might refer with this word to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you might refer with this word to any other book. You can say tafsir hadith kada, for example, the tafsir of this hadith, the tafsir of al-arba'in an-nawawi, or the 40 hadith. You can use this word. But when you use the word at-ta'wil, the interpretation is just for the Quran. That was another. And there were more than one opinion. Some of them say tafsir cares about the meanings of the word sirat. For example, as-sirat means the bridge or the way. Or for example, al-wabil, this word we just explained, al-wabil, the downpouring raining, means the downpouring means al-matar, for example, in Arabic, or the downpour raining in English. So this is at-tafsir. You explain a word by word. This is at-ta'wil. You go deeper to the inner meanings of the ayah to understand that what is the meaning of sirat in terms of the spiritual state of the Muslim, for example, or the spiritual state of the heart. So ta'wil is more deep and digging in the ayah. So this is the meaning generally of the literal meaning of tafsir and ta'wil. So why do we need tafsir? Why we are saying that tafsir is one of the most important branches of knowledge, or the most important sciences in our tradition. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sent that Quran to us, to all of us. He didn't send it for a specific nation of people. And the Quran is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to all the humanity, to every person. It is the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to every single one of us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He addressed us in this book, He used the language that we should understand. He used the language that basically most of the people, or many people, should understand. And He sent every messenger with the tongue of the people who was sent to. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَّسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمٍ, as He said in the Quran. And He sent the book with that messenger with the language of the people that Prophet was raised among, or was sent to. So why do we need that? There is a qa'idah the scholars put in here. And this qa'idah is for any book. Now, forget about the Quran for a couple seconds. And let's think of a book. Someone wrote a book. Someone authored a book. Any one of the human beings, when he authored the book, basically he meant that this book will be understood by the majority of people. He didn't want any person to explain the book for him. He could do that if he wanted. So I authored the book. and I publish that book, for example. For the sake of what? I want people to get the message in that book. That's it. I don't want someone else to explain the book. Yeah, I mean, is not one of the main purposes of authoring a book is that to be explained. So this is the main qaida. But sometimes there are exceptions. Sometimes books need to be explained. And they said there are more than one reason why books need to be explained. One of these reasons, they said, it is the very high level of the person who authored that book. We have a very high, big scholar, for example, he authored a book about anything. And he is very high level of language, has a very high level of eloquence and rhetoric language. And he authored it in that big language we couldn't understand easily. Let's compare, for example, between a book authored by Imam al-Shafi'i, for example. He authored a book, and one of the modern scholars or authors, he authored a book. Is there a difference? For sure there's a difference. I mean, in the same language. Because Imam al-Shafi'i, when he wrote al-Risala, for example, the message, he was trying to establish a new science. It's a genius book. He tried to establish a new science called, that wasn't there at the time, usul al-fiqh. So he was putting the ideas, the main ideas that are gonna control the knowledge of usul al-fiqh. So it's a very high level of book. It needs to be explained. One line of this book, it needs many pages to be explained. But now, for example, we have an author in Arabic language, and he wants to author a book, for example, he wouldn't basically need all the explanation. So one of the reasons that book needs to be explained is that the high level of the author. And it might be a reason is that the author himself, he left some parts of his book or some information that need a little bit more clarification or elaboration, for example. So someone came after him, he added more elaboration to his book. Or the third possible meaning or the third possible reason is that he used some language that referred to more than one meaning. We got to a word and we didn't know what does he mean with this word. It might mean more than one meaning. There are more than one possible meaning to this word, for example, so we need someone to explain to us what does this word mean. All of these reasons are for any book that is authored or any book that is written by any person. So how about the Quran? Let's go back to the Quran. This is generally with any book that authored by a human being. But with the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Quran with lisan Arabiyyin mubin, with a very clear language of the Arabic. And at the time of the revelation of the Quran, those were the biggest guys ever in eloquence. They were actually having that very high and big pride that we are the best in eloquence, we are the best in writing and in poetry. And that's why they tried at the beginning to challenge the Quran, because they were the masters of eloquence at that time. So once the Quran, try to imagine yourself among those people. Once the Quran is revealed, or the message is delivered to you, you will understand. At least the basic meanings, you will understand. Why? This is my language. I'm the best in this language. If I'm not the person who's going to understand, no one else will understand. So the basic and the apparent meanings of any word or any ayah, you will understand it right away. So that was at the time of the revelation. But even there were some deep meanings they couldn't understand from the very beginning. So they were thinking more a little bit. This like those example of the unbelievers who were astonished with these ayat. So they kept thinking, well, it's different from what we know of the language. And they said that it's different from what we know. And some of them, they were asking the Prophet ﷺ, like the Sahaba. The Sahaba, an ayah revealed, and they couldn't understand what is the meaning of this ayah. They were among those people who are the best in language, but they couldn't understand the meaning of the ayah. One day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. Those who believed, meaning believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and do not mix their belief with injustice. أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الْأَمْنُ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. These are the people that will be given the security from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the people that will be guided. So the Sahaba started thinking a little bit of this ayah. And they said, وَمَن مِنَّا لَمْ يَظْلِمْ نَفْسَهُ. Look at how they understood the ayah. Who is among us who didn't transgress himself, who didn't mix his iman with a kind of injustice or dhulm. So they started figuring out it's very hard. We can't endure this. So they went to the Prophet and they said, Ya Rasulullah, every person, even if we believe in Allah, yes, we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but how can we guarantee that our faith or our iman is totally pure, is totally free from any kind of dhulm or injustice? So the Prophet explained this ayah. And this is one of the examples of the ayah that the Prophet made tafseer for. He said the dhulm in this ayah, the injustice in this ayah, refers to the shirk, refers to the associating any partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How could he understand this, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or how could he get this meaning from the other ayah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. The shirk, associating that any partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a great kind of transgression, is a great sin. So Allah himself in his book described the shirk to be adl. That's why when we are going to talk about the kinds of tafsir, there's tafsir al-Qur'ani bil-Qur'an. You can explain the Qur'an with the Qur'an. Or tafsir al-Qur'ani bil-ma'thuri an al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Or to explain the Qur'an with what was reported from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. As this situation. This situation actually refers to both. Ayah explained the ayah and he himself admitted that meaning sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sayyidah Aisha, one day she heard the word al-hisab al-yasir, the easy reckoning or the easy account. كان ذلك أو فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا. Allah Ta'ala is saying that this person will be given that very easy account, or very easy reckoning. So she went to the Prophet ﷺ and she said, what is al-hisab al-yasir? What is that easy account? She couldn't understand. And she is one of the also of these masters of the language, radiallahu anha, the mother of the believers. So she asked the Prophet ﷺ that. So he said, ذَلِكَ الْعَرْض. This is the time in which all people will stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So al-hisab al-yasir means this. So he explained that. It's one of the examples of tafsir al-Qur'an min al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So even those guys who are the best of the language, they were asking of these unclear meanings. So if they who are the best couldn't understand some of the meanings of the Qur'an, so for sure we need the tafsir more than those people. And actually not just for this part which is unclear, even the first part which they understood by the sense of language, we can't understand because we didn't have that level of language. So for sure, definitely we need tafsir with the Qur'an. We need the Qur'an to be explained to us. We need something or someone to explain to us what are the meanings of this ayah, what is the tafsir of this ayah. That's why one of the scholars, he said, علم التفسير عسير يسير. He said that science of tafsir is difficult and is easy as well. And they explained why it is difficult and why it is easy. He said, it is difficult because of more than one reason. One of the reasons is that it is the speech of someone of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who we can't reach. Meaning, we can't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what exactly He means with this ayah, or what exactly He means with these words, for example. Or we can't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what is the exact definite meaning of this ayah. And this is different from any other kind of speech. When you know an author of a book, when you're an author of a line of poetry, and it's somehow unclear, you can ask him. You can go to him and say, what did you mean with this line of poetry? What do you mean with this book, for example? What do you mean with this word? But for the case of the Qur'an, you can't ask who? You can't ask anyone, except the Prophet ﷺ. And this is what the Sahaba actually did. But that was very limited. The ahadith, or the reports we have of his explanation of the Qur'an are very little. So we still have a big part, actually the biggest part of the Mus'haf, he didn't explain sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So how are we going to understand this? That's why the tafsir is ilmun asir. It's a difficult kind of the science. But here, you have to think, what is the wisdom behind this? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left all these kinds of the ayat without an explanation? He could make it very clear, right? He could subhanahu wa ta'ala make the ayah of the wudu, the example we give about the fiqh, very clear. To that extent that we shouldn't disagree about what part of head we have to wipe. Is it the whole head? We have to wipe all of it. We have to wipe part of it. And what is actually this part? All these are opinions among the scholars. So why they came to that disagreement? Allah Ta'ala could make it wipe the head, the quarter of the head, for example. And that's it. He could make it clear. And the same applies for any other ayah of the Quran. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala wanted to this book to be thought of all the time. To be thought of all the time till the day of judgment. To be reflected upon till the day of judgment. If the Quran was that very 100% clear, no one would think of it. We can memorize, but it's okay. Plus, we understand the Quran, so we don't need to reflect upon the meanings that much. But because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left it open to that extent, till today, we're still thinking of the Quran. Till today, we're getting new meanings of the Quran. That's why the tafsir is the kind of science which is not closed. You still have the ability to get, for sure with tools, I'm going to talk about this, but we still have the ability to get more meanings from the Quran. To get more, that's why لا يخلق على كثرة الرد. The more you are reciting, the more you are thinking, the more you are reflecting, you're still gonna get many and multiple meanings from the same ayah. From the same word you recited hundreds, thousands of times in your life. And it's still till the end of your life, you're still getting new meanings from the same ayah, from the same surah. And all the humanity, not just yourself, all the humanity are doing this, all the scholars. We still today have new tafsir. And tafsir from a new perspective, from a new aspect. He's adding more meaning to the ayah. He's opening a new aspect, a new perspective for the ayah. That's why the wisdom, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left all that part of the Quran open to us. That's why the scholars talk too much about the sharaf of the ilm, the honor of ilm al-tafsir, of the science of tafsir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. He's giving the wisdom to whatever, or to whoever He wishes, or He wills subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. And whoever is given the wisdom, he has been given much of good. So the scholars of Tafseer, when they talked about the hikmah, the wisdom in this ayah, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, the biggest interpreter of the Quran, explained the meaning of the wisdom. He said the wisdom in this ayah that Allah Ta'ala is given to whoever He wills is the knowledge of the Quran. قال العلم بالقرآن. With the abrogated and abrogated ayat of the Quran, with the muhkam and mutashabih, the clear and the unclear, or the clear and the speculative, or the definite and the speculative, and the history of the revelation of the Quran, the occasions of the revelation of the Quran. All of these things are under the meaning of al-hikmah, under the meaning of the wisdom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is given to whomever He wishes subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyiduna Abu Darda, the companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said the meaning of the wisdom in this ayah is the recitation and the reflection upon the meanings of the Quran. And one of the Salaf, he said a very nice word. He said, I never passed by an ayah in the Quran and I found myself to understand the meaning of this ayah, except I felt bad for myself. And they said, why I did this? Why I feel bad for every ayah I'm hearing or I'm reciting, and I feel I don't understand the meaning of this ayah. And try to have the example for yourself. When you read an ayah or recite an ayah, and you don't know the meaning of the ayah. He said, every time I'm reciting an ayah, and I found out that, oh, I don't understand what does this ayah mean, I feel too bad. Why? Because they said, because I heard, it's a figurative meaning, but I heard Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ. These are examples you are given to people. وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. And no one is going to understand, to comprehend these ayat, except those people who have knowledge. Except the people of knowledge. وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. Take this ayah as a sign. Take this ayah as something that holds to your memory, that I have to understand any word I didn't know about the Quran. When you reciting your word, when you listen to the Imam is reciting an ayah, and then you think, you try even just to pick one ayah or one word. What does this ayah mean? Or what does this word mean? In the very simple books of Tafsir, I'm going to talk about the books of Tafsir. In any simple book, you go and look for the ayah, you go look for the translation. So everything is Googled now very easily. So you can look up for this ayah. Why? Because Allah Ta'ala said, these examples I'm giving to you in the Quran is just for the people of knowledge. وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. No one is going to understand except those people of knowledge. That's why Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he said, to understand or the one ayah of the Quran, to make one ayah of the Quran clear is more beloved to me to memorize it. He said, لأن أعرب آية من القرآن حب إلي من أن أحفظها. أعرب here means that to make it clear. It's not the Arab we know. So he said, to make this ayah clear, to understand clearly the meaning of the ayah is better for me than memorizing this ayah. That's why there is a consensus among the scholars that the science of tafsir is from furud al-kifayat. It's from those, what we call the communal obligations upon the communities. That every single nation or every single ummah or community, they have to have scholars in specific sciences or specific branches of knowledge. For example, and we give that example before, every community, they have to have a sheikh. Every community, they have to have a doctor. Every community, they have to have an engineer. They have to. And the meaning of the philosophy of communal obligation in Islam is that if we don't have a sheikh, for example, or we don't have, I don't want to mention the sheikh, let's forget about the sheikh. If we don't have a doctor, for example, in our community, we don't have a female doctor for the issues of our sisters and women, or we don't have an engineer, for example, all these means, name it for any main job in our life that is important for the life, and we don't have it, it's the shortcoming for the whole community. So every single person is going to be asked about this. This is the meaning of fardul kifayah. You know that we have the personal obligation, like the salah, it's a personal obligation. You're going to be asked about your salah. But salatul janazah, if you have a dead Muslim, the whole community has to provide a salah for this person. Even just 3 persons, the least number of the jama'ah, or 2 persons, they're going to make the salatul janazah for this dead brother or dead Muslim, that's okay. All of the community is safe in terms of the dhanb. But no one makes that salah. Every single person who is mature and he's aqil and baligh, he's going to be asked about this brother or this Muslim that we didn't offer salatul janazah for. So the same applies with these ulum. The scholars say to have a faqih, to have a mufti, to have a doctor, to have an engineer, all of these jobs, every community has to provide the Muslims with. So they said that tafsir is one of the furud al-kifayat. All the time you have to have those scholars who are specialized in the knowledge of tafsir. And then usually, and we mentioned that before too, usually the ulum of Islam or the sciences of Islam are competing with each other in terms of the honor and the nobility of that knowledge. And we said before that every scholars of one branch of knowledge, they are saying our knowledge, our branch of knowledge is the best ever. Scholars of hadith will tell you that the science of hadith is the best ever, because this is the words of the Prophet. The scholars of tafsir will say it is the best, the ilm of tafsir, because we are talking about the words of Allah. The scholars of fiqh, they will say that no one could worship Allah without our knowledge. So every person, it's a kind of positive competition. It's not a competition, but it means they are talking about the honor of their ilm. And then there's a deep point, the scholars say the ulum, the branches of knowledge or the sciences, are competing from more than one perspective. The perspective of the subject matter. What is the subject matter of this topic or of this science? And from the purpose of this ilm, this is second perspective, and from the need for this ilm. So if the subject matter is something honorable, so this branch of knowledge or this science is really something very important for us. Or the purpose behind the science, the more this purpose is something very important for the Muslims, so the more this ilm is important. And how much do we need for this ilm? So they said the tafsir, the science of tafsir, he got the honor of the three. Why? Because the subject matter is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The purpose is understanding the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And understanding or al-i'tisamu bil-urwati al-wuthqa, as the scholars of tafsir say, to the most, to hold to the most trustworthy handhold that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted to us. And the third thing, how much do we need it? For sure we need to understand the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because any kind of perfection in your life or in your religion needs the Islamic sciences. And all the Islamic sciences are built on understanding the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ilm al-tafsir is one, for sure, one of the best, at least, if not the best, of all the ulum. And here comes a very important question. What we are doing in this halaqah, what we are doing in this course. Are we explaining the Quran? Are we making tafsir of the Quran? Yes, with the name of the title of the course or the halaqah is tafsir juz' am, is the explanation juz' am. But actually, are we making tafsir in this halaqah? This is a very important question. Basically, and bottom line, no, we are not making tafsir. In terms of what, I'm going to say this. Actually, I was hesitant to open this halaqah, to open this course. I didn't want to make a halaqah about the tafsir. And this is my first time in life to make a halaqah about tafsir of the Quran, by the way. Why? Our mashaykh used to tell us that tafsir wa amal muntahin. The tafsir, to explain the Quran, is the job of those people who came to the highest level of knowledge. We're talking about the one who wants by himself to explain the Mus'haf or the Quran. This is the person who is in the very highest level and ranks of knowledge. The one who knows fiqh, the one who knows usul fiqh, the one who knows understanding, who knows Arabic language, all these things. We have a branch or a chapter in the books of the sciences of the Quran about adawat al-tafsir. There are tools for the tafsir. In order to delve in something, in that text of the most noble text ever, and the highest text ever, which is the text of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need much of tools to understand. Al-ilm bis-sunnah, to know the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To know all the reports about the tafsir from the Sahaba and the sayings of the Tabi'in, to know Arabic language with all the branches of Arabic language, the grammar, the morphology, the rhetoric, the eloquence, all of these kinds. And to know fiqh, to know usul al-fiqh, to know sometimes logic, to know anything. Because anything is in the Quran. And you might use all of these tools in the Quran. So it is the job of the very highest scholar. I know I'm not claiming to be this for sure. So I'm not explaining the Quran. I'm not making tafsir. We have to make this very clear. So what I'm doing here, simply, we're trying just to summarize what the scholars of tafsir told us and what we got humbly learned from our mashayikh. That's it. To read more than one resource of tafsir, to read more than one book, 5, 6, 10 books of tafsir, all the books of tafsir we can reach, and then try to summarize, try to highlight the points or the opinions that are relevant to our time and to our modern society, and then to see if there's our big mashayikh who are explaining the Quran and they will refer to their sayings about this tafsir. This is all what we gotta do. I'm not gonna add any single word over than this. Why? It's not my job. I can't do this. And you have to respect your level of knowledge. You have to respect your level of knowing this thing specifically if you're going to talk about the Quran. Sayyidina Abu Bakr, this best companion we just mentioned, said, أَيُّ سَمَاءٍ تُضِلُّنِي وَأَيُّ أَرْضٍ تُقِلُّني إِن قُلْتُ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. What is the land that will carry me? What is the sky that will be above me? If I'm saying a word about the kitab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without knowledge. Very dangerous. The most dangerous thing you can do ever in your life is to talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without ilm, without knowledge. So this is what we are going to do in this halaqah, or in these halaqat of this course, inshallah. And the last question we're going to conclude with, or the last part, is that how the Quran was explained. How can we refer to the explanation of the Quran? We give that example of the Quran sometimes explains the Quran. Tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran. You might find an ayah, and this ayah is explained in a different spot of the Mus'haf. Some ayah is very general, and other ayahs specify this ayah. Some ayah is very short, and other ayah gives more detail or elaboration about this ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, for example, very quick example, حُلَّتْ لَكُمْ بَهِيمَةُ الْأَنْعَامِ إِلَّا مَا يُتْلَى عَلَيْكُمْ. Said, lawful for you are the animals of the grazing livestock. إِلَّا مَا يُتْلَى عَلَيْكُمْ, except for those are recited to you. And then he didn't say what that are recited to us. He didn't say what that مَا يُتْلَى عَلَيْكُمْ. But in other surah, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, he said that حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ, prohibited to you are الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير. He explained it in very detail. The dead animals, the blood, the swine, all these things. So this ayah was very general, and in the other ayah, it gave more elaboration to the previous one. He said in another ayah, for example, لا تدركه الأبصار. He's talking about himself, subhanahu wa ta'ala. The vision perceives him not. The vision doesn't perceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he perceives all vision for sure. وَهُوَ يُدْرِكُ الْأَبْصَارِ. So the ayah refers that you can't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Your vision can't reach him. But he told us himself in Surah Al-Qiyamah, وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. Faces at that day of judgment are brightening, are shining, looking at the Lord. So he said, لَا تُدْرِكُ الْأَبْصَارِ. No vision gonna see him, or can see him. But this ayah said, looking at the Lord. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ. Looking at the Lord. إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the second one specified the previous one. The second one is talking about the day of judgment. It's a specific reward for the people of the Jannah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will let him see him subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the way of that? We don't know. How you gonna see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You don't know. How that can look like? You can't understand this. You can't comprehend this. This is a different word. It's هذا من قياس الغائب على الشاهد كما يقولون. You can't have the same kind of understanding, the same analogy to that different word to the same word you're living in. You can't do this. That's why you can't admit that we're gonna see him. How? We don't know. This is simply the meaning of إلى ربها ناظرة. So this is one of the kinds of tafsir, تفسير القرآن بالقرآن. The second kind of tafsir, تفسير القرآن بالسنة. To explain the Quran with the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ explained the Quran. It elaborated the Quran. Imam al-Shafi'i, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that every single thing the Prophet ﷺ legislated in that religion is from what he understood from the Quran. كل ما حكم به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فهو مما فهم من القرآن. Why? What was the dalil? And take care when Imam al-Shafi'i brings a dalil, it's something very deep. You have to look at deeply. He said because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ. We have sent that book to you with the truth. Why? لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ. To judge between people, or that might include the middle of legislation, to judge between people with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have taught you. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally has shown you. لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ. So he said, so anything he's going to legislate, anything he's going to tell you or to give you as a command, as an order, as a prohibition, is from what he understood from the Quran. So the Quran is the main umbrella of him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then under that umbrella, anything he's going to bring to us, it is part of the meaning of the Quran. And he said that sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. He said, أَلَا إِنِّي أُوتِيتُ الْقُرْآنَ وَمِثْلَهُ مَعَهُ. Indeed, I have been given the Quran and something like it. What is that something like it? Is the Sunnah. And sometimes, according to the famous tafsir of al-hikmah, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, talking about the Prophet ﷺ is going to teach them the book and the wisdom. What is the wisdom? He said that is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Imam Shafi'i was one of the scholars who said that means. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّا أَعْطَيْنَاكَ الْكَوْثَرِ, we have given you the Kawthar. He explained that in his Sunnah ﷺ, that there is a river in the Jannah, in the paradise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised his Prophet ﷺ with. So this is an example of tafsir al-Qur'ani bis-Sunnah. So we explain the Quran with the Quran, if we can find that. And we explain the Quran with the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And then after that, we explain it with the sayings of the Sahaba. Why we explain that? Those people were living with the Prophet ﷺ. They were the best in Arabic language. They witnessed all these occasions of the revelation of the Quran. And sometimes they say تفسير الصحابي في حكم المرفوع. The explanation of the tafsir of the Sahabi has the same level of authenticity as the hadith marfu'. Who knows hadith marfu'? From the guys who were attending for the hadith. Adam?
It's a hadith that stops at a Sahabi, it doesn't reach the Prophet.
No, this is not marfu'. It's al-mawquf. So what is al-marfu'? We explained it before, if you remember. Al-marfu' the hadith that reached in terms of the chain of the narrators till the Prophet ﷺ. Doesn't have to be sound, by the way. But the chain is complete. The chain of narrators is complete from the one who reported the hadith till the Prophet ﷺ. So it was literally elevated to the Prophet. Al-marfu' يقول رفعه إلى النبي. رواه عبد الله بن عباس يرفعه إلى النبي. You will find these words in the books of hadith. So the chain of narrators came till its end, till the Prophet ﷺ. So this is the meaning of marfu'. So they said that when the Sahabi explains the meaning in the Quran, it can come to the level of as the Prophet ﷺ explained it. Specifically if it is something that the Sahabi can't bring from just his mind. If the Sahabi tells you that this ayah means that thing, or it refers to that scene on the Day of Judgment, no way that Sahabi understood this except from the Prophet ﷺ. هذا مما لا يقال فيه بالرأي. It's part of the things that he can't say just from his own mind. So you can understand, even if he didn't say the Prophet told me this or the Prophet said this, but you can understand that for sure he didn't bring it from his own. He's a Sahabi, he's trusted, he's thiqa. So this is from the له حكم المرفوع. It is the same exactly as what if the Prophet ﷺ is the one who gave that tafsir. And the Sahaba used to spend much of time to understand the Quran more than memorizing the Quran. That's why we don't have, by the way, big number of memorizers among the Sahaba of the Quran. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, he said that he spent 8 years memorizing Surah Al-Baqarah. Why? He wasn't have a problem with his mind. He wasn't have a problem with his memory. But they told us that they were not, as the Sahabi said, they were not passing 10 ayat from the Mus'haf except they understood everything in this ayat. And they act upon what is in this ayat. حتى يعلم ما فيها من العلم والعمل. Until he understands what is in these 10 ayat of the ilm, of the knowledge. And if I can act upon this knowledge, I have to do it before I move to the next 10 ayat. This is the way they were memorizing the Quran. So he spent 8 years memorizing the surah. One of the Sahaba also, he said, Anas ibn Malik, I believe, said that كان الرجل إذا قرأ البقرة وآل عمران جد في أعيننا. The man among us, when he memorized Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al-Imran, now it becomes a big deal. It becomes a big shot now because he memorized these two surah. Why? Because the concept of memorization is way different from our concept of memorization. It's not just memorizing some words. That was the easiest thing for those guys at that time. The Bedouin guys are very easy to memorize anything. But it wasn't just about memorizing and just reciting these words, but memorizing, understanding, reflecting, acting upon the meanings of these ayat. That's why the tafsir of Sahaba are very accurate and very important. After the Sahaba, the next generation is the generation of the Tabi'een, the followers of the Sahaba, who studied the ilm or the science of tafsir with the Sahaba themselves. And we have lots of Tabi'een who studied the Quran with Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, with Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, with Sayyidina Ubay ibn Ka'b, and many other of the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that's why the scholars, they said, this point we're gonna mention here, that the one who wants to make tafsir like those big guys of the Tabi'een after the Sahaba, they have to have some kind of conditions to be a mufassir, to just talk about the meanings of the Quran. The first thing, he has to have a correct belief, an i'tiqad al-sahih. His i'tiqad, his belief, has to be a right i'tiqad. He can't be from those sects of the deviated sects, from the way mainstream of the Muslims of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. If he's of those mubtadi'ah, of those who are deviated, we can't accept easily his opinion of the Quran. And we're gonna later mention some things of this. This is the first condition. His i'tiqad is right. His i'tiqad is according to the right i'tiqad of the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The second thing, the methodology he's gonna use, which is what? Which we just mentioned. He starts with the Quran, then with the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then with the sayings of the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the third, these are the three main conditions. The third one is the correct knowledge, the sound knowledge, which is the rest of the branches of knowledge we mentioned. So al-i'tiqad al-sahih, the correct belief, the right and the sound methodology, and the sound knowledge from all these branches and sciences of knowledge. The mufassirin among the Sahaba, the explanators of the Quran among the Sahaba, they said the most famous Sahaba were explaining the Quran. There were 10 of the Sahaba. The first 4 of them is the 4 caliphs we have. Who are the 4 caliphs? Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Umar ibn al-Khattab, Uthman ibn Affan, Ali ibn Abi Talib. The main one, we had lots of reports from his tafsir, is Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib. And the one we have very rare narrations about his tafsir, Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He wasn't explaining the Quran too much. But Sayyidina Ali, because he was the last one to die, and he explained much about the Quran. He was given much of khutab and explanations of the Quran. So we have lots of reports from him, radiallahu anh, explaining the Quran. And then Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Ubay ibn Ka'b, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, Abdullah ibn Zubair, those are among the main Sahaba who were explaining the Quran. And then the people who are the Tabi'een, the followers of the Sahaba, and the best, they said, is the people of the Mecca from the Tabi'een we mean. Why? Because they are the companions of Abdullah ibn Abbas. Turjuman al-Quran. The Prophet ﷺ made dua for him to understand. Allahumma faqihu fi ad-din wa alimhu at-ta'wil. Imam Mujahid, you will hear that name much in the books of tafsir. He said, I studied and discussed the meanings of the Quran with Abdullah ibn Abbas for 30 times, the whole Quran. Another narration said for 3 times, عرضت القرآن على ابن عباس 3 مرات. We studied and discussed the Quran, the whole Quran with Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas 3 times. That's why it was a big shot in the ilm of tafsir. Imam Shafi'i was trusting his knowledge too much in the ilm of tafsir. When he said Mujahid said this about this ayah, it's a very big opinion and respected opinion. Imam Ata, Imam Ukrimah, Sa'id ibn Jubayr, Tawus, all these big scholars of the Tabi'een, they were of the big of the Mufassirin of the Quran. And in Al-Kufa, in Iraq, they were the companions of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. In Al-Madinah, with the Prophet ﷺ, there was Sayyidina Imam Zayd ibn Aslam, and many other of the scholars of the Tabi'een. And then after that, the authoring these books of tafsir started. Till the time, there were not much of writings of the tafsir of the Quran. And then after this time, after this level, people started writing some of the tafsir. And the first classification of the tafsir of the Quran was just to collect in these narrations of those people. Like what Imam Sufyan ibn Uyayna and Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj and the biggest scholars of hadith, they started collecting all the narrations that were reported from the Sahaba and from the Prophet ﷺ about the tafsir, and then the tafsir becomes a science. It becomes a specialty. It becomes a major thing. You can contribute from more than one perspective. So we had the tafsir through the transmission, the tafsir bil-ma'thur, the tafsir through the opinion, that you can add your opinion about a tafsir from a rhetorical point of view, tafsir from a fiqh point of view, tafsir from many perspectives that still evolved till nowadays about the tafsir of the Quran. Inshallah, next halaqah. We're going to talk much before we start with Surah Amma Yatasa'alun, the first surah of the juz. Inshallah, we're going to talk about all these kinds of tafsir, what the famous books of tafsir we have, what the famous translated books of tafsir we have. If someone wants to get back to one of these books, or to revise, or to add more information from the books of tafsir after every halaqah, that will be inshallah more beneficial for himself. We're going to talk about this inshallah next halaqah, and then we move to the first surah of Juz Amma, which is Amma Yatasa'alun. Inshallah, there's an optional thing along the way this course, is that the people who want to memorize. If you want to memorize along the way with the course, with the surah, for the surah we are explaining or talking about its tafsir, it will be much easier. When you memorize something after you understood it, it will be very easy. Basically, most of us for sure memorize lots of surah, of the short surahs of the Quran, Surah Amma. I believe the biggest part of the Quran many of us memorize is Juz Amma. When you are a kid, you just start memorizing Qul huwallahu ahad, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. These short surah, most of us memorize or know. So that will be, when adding the tafsir or the explanation of this surah, it will be much easier for yourself to memorize this ayah. So to come out from this course with understanding the meanings and with sound memorization and sound recitation, sometimes we can offer some halaqat inshallah for teaching the way how you're gonna memorize, how you're gonna recite this ayah with the tajweed. It will be nice inshallah. If you have the himma and the real sincere intention to do that, we can inshallah make a kind of groups and try every time. It will be very slow because every time you're gonna spend long time to explain just one surah. At the end of the surah, it will be very easy to memorize one page. The longest surah will be 2 pages maximum of surah, or of the surah or the chapters of Juz Amma, inshallah. So whoever is willing to do this, we can make groups, inshallah, after the halaqah, or we can start figuring out a way to follow up with these groups of memorization, inshallah. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله عز وجل ولكم. Any question before we conclude for Salat al-Isha? آمين وفيكم. Any question? Rahman, any question? Are you sure? You came late, but you can ask. Okay. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله عز وجل لي ولكم. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.